Good afternoon. Today is September 29th, 2022, and this is Conversations from Stritch. I'm Christopher Sent, the provost here at Lewis University. President Livingston is away this afternoon. Fall is here in Romeoville as trees are changing, and we are now almost midway through the semester. Next week is the midterm break, so we're sort of feeling that fall feeling deeply now in our community here in Romeoville. Many of us have our attention focused on Hurricane Ian as it moves through Florida last night and today. Our thoughts and prayers are with everyone in Florida impacted by the storm, and especially with the many members of the Lewis community who have family and other ties to the Gulf Coast and to Florida. And we will be monitoring the storm as the day goes on. And into the days later this week and into the weekend. Last Saturday was our annual Signum Fidei event. Signum Fidei is our signature fundraiser for our mission fund, which is used to assist students when they have a serious negative event happen in their lives that impacts their ability to continue to study and complete their degree. This year we moved the event to the House of Blues in Chicago. We just saw some images of that, and we had a terrific night that included a lot of fun as well as more learning about the Mission Fund and the way it impacts students' lives. We also honored our guest from last week, Brother Michael Quirk, for his lifetime of service to Lewis, and raised over $300,000 for the Mission Fund, again to support students in their times of need. So we're very grateful to the whole Lewis community, everyone who came and contributed from a distance to the Signum Fidei Fund through that experience. This coming Saturday is Family Day, our annual celebration of Lewis families, which welcomes families onto the Lewis campus for a day of fun and connection to the Lewis experience. Begins with a lunch Saturday and includes a range of activities such as flight simulation, hands-on chemistry. By the way, hands-on chemistry is a euphemism for blowing things up in the chemistry department. Safely controlled explosions happen with families there with our chemistry faculty. Time with the Christian Brothers, always a really popular part of Family Day. A Family Day Mass, recreational opportunities, and men's volleyball and alumni scrimmage all that day. So as always, a reminder that you can ask questions during the show as we're broadcasting live through the askus@lewisu.edu. Feel free to ask me any kind of questions about updates about the announcements, or ask questions of our guests once we get started with them. And also a reminder that if you are watching a recorded version of this from YouTube, you can still ask questions from our guests or for me, and we will send an email back to you with a response. Some news from around the campus. Congratulations to Dr. Reza Ahangar, Assistant Professor of Business Analytics, who recently had a paper accepted by the Decision Sciences Institute for its 53rd annual conference. The paper is titled Inflation-Vaccine Ratio and Macroeconomic Factors of the Global Economy. I had the great privilege last weekend of attending Professor Mark Swain's art exhibit and talk at Concordia University. Professor Swain also recently served as one of 4 judges for the Naperville Riverwalk Fine Art Fair, presented by the Naperville Fine Arts Center and Gallery. Thank you to all who've received flu and COVID booster vaccinations during the clinics over the past week, or a couple weeks. Reminder that there is another clinic on Monday, October 3rd from 3 to 6 p.m. in the lower level of the Brother James Gaffney Student Center. Thanks to Dr. Nancy Ryland and her students and the whole Department of Nursing for their work in setting up and administering those clinics. Reminder that we have student events always going on campus, and we have I think if we could back up a little bit, a couple more announcements, and then we'll get to those events. Yeah, we're looking at some upcoming events, but I have some other announcements to make before that. So we have just a reminder that we get an email every week with some announcements about student events. And tonight, There is, and so watch your email for that. Some highlights is that there's a DIY tissue flower making from 6 to 7 p.m. at the Gaffney Center. Kickball tournament finale tonight from 6 to 8 at the Stadium Turf Field. There's an arts and ideas event tonight as well. Really big event tonight at 7:30. The Grammy-nominated trumpeter and band leader Victor Garcia and his quintet will be performing at 7:30 in the Borromeo Convention Hall. And now, if we could go back to that slide, I wanted to, so that we have some sort of post midterm break events that are really big, and I just want to, again, remind people of these huge events that we have coming up that are all kind of clustered together around the middle of the term. So on October 11th at 4 p.m., Justice Lisa Holder-White will be presenting an overview of the Illinois courts. The Lewis University alumna, who is the first Black woman to serve on the Illinois Supreme Court, earned her bachelor's degree here at Lewis, magna cum laude, and her Juris Doctor from the University of Illinois College of Law. She was sworn into the role on July 7th and appointed to serve on the Illinois Supreme Court through December 2nd, 2024. On October 18th, we will have the annual Sapaniak Lecture featuring Dr. Paige Glotzer, presenting a paper called The Segregated Suburbs and the History of the United States. And then from October 19th to 20th, a wide range of events through the annual Peace Teach-In, lots of events throughout the day on both of those days, and I think also into Friday the 21st a little bit. But the big keynote lecture of that event is the Grow Memorial Lecture, October 20th at 7 p.m., featuring Valerie Kaur in a presentation called See No Stranger, Revolutionary Love as the Call of Our Times. And then right on the heels of that, on October 21st and 22nd, Confines of Place, the Intersections of Race, Place, Migration, and Mass Incarceration, which is the convening or conference connected to the Legacies of American Slavery grant we have talked about quite a bit on the show. And then one keynote for that conference on October 21st at 5:30 p.m., Reuben Jonathan Miller, the author of Halfway Home, Race, Punishment, and the Afterlife of Mass Incarceration. Now, shifting gears to athletics, there's a lot. This is the time of year when there's an overwhelming amount of things going on every weekend, especially but really all the time. So this is just one snapshot of this weekend. Men's tennis at Eastern Illinois, men's and women's swimming at home against Quincy on Saturday afternoon. So that's also during Family Day if you wanted to swing by the pool and watch our men's and women's swimming team compete against Quincy. Women's volleyball on the road Friday at 6 at Illinois Springfield, and Saturday at 3 at Quincy. And then at home, women's soccer Friday at 5 and Sunday at 12. Friday at 5 against Illinois Springfield and Quincy on Sunday, and the same opponents for men's soccer Friday at 7:30 and Sunday at 2:30. So again, that Sunday afternoon, Friday and Sunday for soccer, and that brings us to our guests for the day. I'm really excited to welcome, I think, first 4 guests at one time on this show. So Dr. Livingston is really missing out on this historic event and missing out on talking about what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to introduce 4 people, and then we'll start talking. I'll try to be as quickly as possible with our introductions. So first, and we are talking about soccer. Evan Fiffles took over as the Lewis University head men's soccer coach in 1992. Since his arrival, the Flyers have winning records in 27 out of 30 of those seasons, 8 top 25 finishes, 8 NCAA tournament appearances, 6 GLVC tournament championships, 9 regular season GLVC championships or co-championships, 4 trips to the NCAA Division II Sweet 16, and 2 in the Division II semifinals. So that's Evan. The 2022 season is the 16th for Chris Koenig as the head coach of the Lewis University women's soccer program. Koenig has led the Flyers to the Great Lakes Valley Conference Tournament 4 times in the last 7 years. And then we're also welcoming 2 student athletes to the show today. First, Justin Darlage is a junior from New Lenox, Illinois. He has been the recipient of the Brother David Delahanty Award given to Lewis student athletes for academic excellence and named to academic all GLVC team. And he is a major in exercise science. Abby Gustafson is a senior from Plainfield, Illinois, and is was a double major, graduating with her bachelor's degree last year in business administration and political science, and she is now an MBA student here at Lewis. And she was named last year to the College Sports Information of Directors Academic All-American Division II Women's Soccer Third Team, the second player in the program's history to achieve that honor. So I'm very happy to welcome all of you to the show, Conversations from Stritch.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Thanks. So I just talked nonstop for like 12 minutes, so I'm really looking forward to talking with y'all. I guess I want to start with Evan. How is the season going so far?
I think it's going well. Well, right now our record's 4-2-1. We have a 3-game unbeaten streak, so probably it's a group that we have a lot of new additions. So we lost a lot of offense last year, so I think it took a while, a few weekends and games to go ahead and get kind of continuity. But I think we've shown in the last 2 weekends that we're a team that's going to challenge for one of the top spots in the league. So we're looking forward to the year.
What is it? What do you have to do to when there's more new players working together than usual? What do you do as a coach to bring them together as a team?
Getting them in situations throughout the week to go ahead and show what they could go ahead and do in different positions. I mean, I think it's obviously the most important. Some could be very versatile, so give them opportunities at different positions and just see who's playing well and who's effective and who works well on the field. And that changes, from day to day, from weekend to game, just depending upon their performance. And then if their performance is not at level, maybe somebody else the next, during the week training, we see somebody else and give them an opportunity to perform the following weekend.
Cool. Chris, how is the season going for you?
Good.
For your team? And then maybe for people who are not super familiar with the season or soccer, like where are we at in the season?
So we have about 2/3 of the season left. It seems like we've been at this about 6 months already, but it's just beginning of August that everybody arrived. But I'll echo what Evan said. I think we have a lot of new faces this year. Fortunately, we returned some really good upperclassmen and leadership in those spots. But I definitely like the direction that the group is going. Similar to Evan, we lost some scoring last year in a couple of spots, and so it's been finding new roles for people and getting the relatively large freshman class kind of engaged with the team. But I like where we're at right now.
Cool. I wonder if you, Chris, just to maybe stick with you, there's a lot of people watching who may not know a lot about NCAA athletics or about soccer. So I'm going to ask some questions that are maybe with that in mind. But actually many people, including myself, maybe don't know the answer to this. Like what does a coach do? I actually do know the answer to that maybe, but like what would it be like if, what would a month be like? And then maybe in the season and out of the season, like not during the season.
Yeah, aside from not a lot of sleep, I think that probably, no, it's one of my favorite questions, when you have these conversations with people who maybe aren't engaged in NCAA athletics, and they say, "Oh, you're a coach. What else do you do?"
Oh, yeah. I didn't say that.
No, you didn't. You didn't. No, so I appreciate it. No, we spend a lot of time, obviously, with our players and prepping for the stuff that we do out on the field. But I think Evan would agree, a large portion of what we do is off the field, whether that be recruiting, being out on the road, watching players play, and meeting with them and trying to get them to see how great of a place Lewis is. You and I have talked about this from time to time about, how I think sometimes we see ourselves in the same role as professors. Our classroom's just different. And one of the things that we are fortunate, I think, to get to do is be able to spend so much time with these students, to be part of that process, going from the time they walk on campus to the time they graduate and head out. So it's especially this time of year, 7 days a week. and it's a grind that we all love. So we're enjoying it right now.
Evan, maybe tell us a little bit about the recruiting piece. You know, like what does that mean, and what does it entail?
Yeah, it's something that you're just doing constantly throughout the year, and different months of the year it's just going to be more intense, and maybe certain times of the year it's just more of communicating email and text wise. But there's times, even during the season, the fall high school boys seasons now, so a lot of times we're training and then going watching a game afterwards and in the evening, and trying to go ahead and get players out for our games to watch us and get them on campus so they can know exactly what it would be like next year when they come here, being on campus, going to class, playing, training, and having that kind of experience, but a year earlier. But the recruiting is year round, and like I said, and the evaluation process, different times as the high school season's in the fall, there might be clubs, so high school's over in November, so we go right into the club. And in Chicago, most of it's indoor, so we travel to warmer areas where Chicago teams are traveling to Florida or the Southwest to go ahead and play, and we'll make a trip in those areas right there to go ahead and now see them. If we're able to see them during the high school season, see them in that club season. And then you probably have that little bit of a lull between the holidays where everybody with Christmas and New Year's, but then it just starts up again with tournaments and playing games throughout the spring and the summer.
It's really interesting that it's kind of like every medium or technology is used in the process. You know, you're on the computer, you're emailing, you're texting, you're talking on the phone, you're also actually physically going places and connecting with, or evaluating people, but also connecting with families and potential student athletes. And
yeah, I mean, any recruit nowadays could go ahead and put a video together.
Right.
So when
That's
I first started out, that was probably non-existent, but now that's part of the process. We probably go ahead and spend hours a week going ahead and watching highlights, and then if we like them, watching the full game. And again, we can't get everywhere, so it just kind of gives us an extra tool to go ahead and recruit and evaluate.
Yeah, cool. So Abby, what is a month in the life of a student athlete like? And maybe talk about now that you're a graduate student, it might be a little different, you know, so maybe both examples.
Yeah, so definitely a very busy lifestyle, but I've kind of this is my 5th year, so I've kind of gotten it down by now. But as an undergrad, you're typically like going to class in the mornings. Coach lets you know like when practice is going to be, so you can plan your schedule accordingly. And then usually just trying to find quick time to eat and then quick time to change and get to practice. And then we're typically at practice for around 3 to 4 hours a day with lift, film, actually practicing. And then your night is kind of dedicated to your free time, but also getting your schoolwork done. So during season, it's definitely, you learn a lot of time management skills, as well as I think a big component is when we're traveling. You also have to learn how to have communication with your professors, let them know when you're going to be gone, and you kind of learn how to do schoolwork on the bus and with your other teammates. But it's a really good environment to learn time management and kind of set you up for the future when you are going to be that busy.
And is it different in the off season, or is it similar demands?
It's definitely a little bit more laid back in the off season, less practice times, less overall hours per week. So usually my strategy was always to kind of put my harder courses in the spring, knowing that I would have more time to dedicate to my studies and soccer. But I would say during season, it's a little bit more strenuous.
Okay. And Justin, I saw you nodding. So do you have any other thoughts about that, techniques that help manage the time and
just
allow you to be
finding
successful?
Whatever time works to get stuff done.
Yeah.
Trying to find time, squeezing a nap between class and practice, and at night eating dinner, class, doing your schoolwork for whatever it's 2-3 hours, and still finding time to hang out with your friends, your roommates, teammates, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I was glad to hear you both mention hanging out is still part of it.
Yeah.
You know, and being able to, what I'm hearing is being able to kind of slip in the schoolwork, or being disciplined enough to say, oh, I have 20 minutes, I'm actually going to do something, and not kind of waste that 20 minutes so that I can hang out, so that I maybe have time to hang out with my friends later and not be staying up late, catching up on stuff, which I'm sure you're also doing
Yeah.
some of the time. So Justin, what about, so you're both from somewhat close to Lewis, which is not always the case. So what did you hear about Lewis growing up, and how come you ended up choosing to come here?
I always knew about the school being local. I never really thought about ending up here. I always thought I would go somewhere 3-4 hours away.
Yeah.
But then getting in the recruiting process, seeing how competitive the school is, challenging for titles every year. I mean, I've had a winning season 27 out of 30 years. Like, it's a very winning-oriented program. That's what I wanted. I wanted to come here. I wanted to play. I wanted to win. So, and it's got great academics, great program that I wanted to go into, and everything just fit.
Nice. What about you, Abby?
Again, similar to him, I was always local to the area. I actually grew up going to like the Evan Fiffles soccer camp as a little girl every single year. So I was like familiar with the campus and stuff, but kind of similar to him. I was never sure that I could see myself ending up there. My mom is actually an alumni of Lewis. She got her nursing degree here. So she kind of advocated for me to go here too. And then I decided to give it a chance and come on a visit. And I immediately just loved the campus. I knew I wanted a small school where I could really get to know my classmates and my professors. That was something that Lewis offered, as well as a soccer component. And I met the girls, and I kind of knew I clicked with them right away and thought, okay, this kind of fits, it checked all my boxes.
And so you're in the MBA program, so business is obviously your focus. Did you start as a business major and get interested in political science, or did it go the opposite way? Or
Yeah, I was always interested in political science, but I kind of put it like on the back burner, and I was gonna always set on doing business in my MBA, but then COVID kind of gave me the opportunity to take that extra year, so I was able to add political science during my senior year as another major, and that's kind of what I have a passion for, history and political science. So that was awesome to have the opportunity to do that at Lewis as well.
That's great. I wonder if there would be a way if you go into business, if there's a way to keep that connection or that passion that you have for politics and government alive in your life. That'd be interesting to see as time goes by. Well, it's nice to hear you both talk about all the kind of complexity of Lewis as well as the amazing programs that you're both in, each of you are in. So maybe we could talk a little bit more about like how it's all connected. And Chris, you started talking about the kind of coaching philosophy and how it's like teaching, so much like teaching. It is teaching. Maybe from your perspective, like how is it all connected, the whole life of the student, and how does it relate to your approach to coaching?
Yeah, I think one of the things that you know, and both of them, hearing them speak, I mean, kind of lends itself to one of the things that I know that I appreciate about being able to work in this field is you get to work with unbelievable people and see them go through this process of figuring out what they want to do with their life and being able to take that next step and learn all the tools that they need to be successful. And you know, I think athletics is one of those things that I feel fits perfectly in higher education, because as Abby touched on, there are so many things that you learn through just going through this process, the time management, the ability to, you know, work with groups and be competitive, which I think is a skill that you know, in some areas we're losing. And so, you know, I think being in a role where you can positively impact everything from the person finding the right fit with the school that they decide to go to, through that point where you see them walk across the stage and get their diploma. Our classroom is just bigger, and we have a lot more areas than just the X's and O's that we get to spend time with these players on.
That's really interesting. I'm wondering, Evan, like how has your coaching changed in 30 years? And is it connected to what Chris is talking about in any way in terms of like maturing into?
I think the most common theme though I mean, I started coaching in the 80s, so it was almost 5 decades right there. I think the common theme throughout all those decades and all my teams is what you put into it is what you get out of it. So as Chris alluded to right there, there's so many parallels with academics, the classroom, than sports and athletics. And if you want to put time into something in the classroom, maybe some things come to you easier, some subjects and discipline come to you easier, others are more difficult, then you have to put time into it if you want to get better at it. And you have to have that passion and desire to do that. The same with athletics. If you want to get better, we'll tell you things that you need to do, but it's up to you of what you want to go ahead, if you want to put that time and if you have the passion. So there's a lot of aspirations out there that, yeah, I want to do this, I want to do that, but you have to go ahead and really be passionate and want to put the time into it to go ahead and kind of reach the levels that you might want in your goals.
That's really interesting. Like, I feel like with teaching, you can make it more efficient for students. You know, you can say, I can teach you how to reach the goal of, learn how to do this or learn how to do that as quickly as possible, but you have to actually do a bunch of work over and over again to really learn something, and that is very wise. That's a very wise perspective on it. That took me a lot of years to learn as a teacher.
And it's so different than academics. If you have the desire to be number one in the class, you're going to have to do things to separate yourself from number 2, 3, 4, 5. No difference in athletics. You want to be number one, you have to do things that others are not doing or put more time into it.
And honestly, that factors into the conversation you asked, or the question you asked earlier about the recruiting. And I think we look at, when we go out to talk to somebody or watch somebody, the evaluation process is so much more than just how do they dribble a ball, how do they shoot a ball. You try to figure out, are you getting that type of person that it's important to them to work hard and to be the best at what they're doing academically on the field. And if you can find those types of people, then I think you're going to be successful. And we've been fortunate to be able to work with some great student athletes.
One of the things about NCAA or college level athletics that I've noticed over the years is really that it is a really volatile time in people's lives. It's really super fun, it's super exciting, it's also super stressful, and you're going through so much change, much more change than you do later in life for most people, and so it's a little bit unpredictable. Like if you're focusing on athletics, you look at somebody when they're 16 years old and you look for those things, and you're really professional. You guys are professionals at discerning the types of habits and characteristics that people have that might lead to their success. But it's also, you never know all the things that might happen to somebody during college that could really impact positively or negatively the way they grow as a player and as a person. So and so you see different people emerge. You were talking about looking for scorers or whatever this season. You see, I'm assuming you can't always predict who's going to emerge in those situations. But I kind of want to ask you two, like, how. I don't even know how to ask a question. Is there anything about what I just said that's inspiring to you, but to talk about? But just kind of like how the whole college experience connects to like how you're playing, or like week to week and that kind of thing.
Yeah, one of the things that, I don't know if this is a little off topic, but what he mentioned was how he looks for different players. And one of the things that I'm just really grateful about being a student athlete is that all the skills that he mentioned learning are like things that I'm going to be able to take in to my life after college. So like I have those time management skills. A lot of, as I'm going through looking for a career and interviews right now in my life, I can always go back to being a student athlete and letting employers know that I have these skills that I've learned over the years. And I also have that competitiveness within me now. So I think that it only benefited me and is going to be able to carry me into my future career.
Justin?
Yeah, like what Abby said, being competitive. I mean, there's 11 people on the field, so if you want to play, you got to beat out whoever's in front of you. So I mean, that carries over in jobs, whatever it is, that if you want it, you got to be the best. You got to put in the work outside of practice, outside whatever you're doing in order to get that.
And you're both kind of describing like tenacity, as a good trait in professional life as well as in athletics. I'm just looking at my my list of questions that have come in, so I'm trying to manage them and pick which ones are appropriate. It's easier for me to see here. So here's some questions. Who are our biggest rivals and games players and coaches really get up for? So there's a lot of questions embedded in that question. So first of all, do you actually do you talk about them like rivals? And do you want to admit who they are? Is one thought.
I'm going to
Yeah, I think you go first.
I think really our league has changed so much where University of Parkside, when they were in our league, they're probably our biggest rival.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
probably the game that the players knew each other and got up because they went to high school or they played club together. Now, since they're out of the league, we still play them, but it's kind of just it's totally a different game.
Yeah, it changes it, yeah.
Where our closest league now is Springfield, but I don't look at them as a rival,
I don't
really.
necessarily see him as a rival as like, you know, you think about some of the great rivalries in sports. I do think there's still a little bit of the, you know, a lot of mid-majors and GLBC teams in the go after the same players. And
Yeah,
so
that's a different type of rivalry.
There are
yeah.
players that know each other on these teams, and soccer's a small world. I'm sure other sports are too, but you know, I see after every game players on our team going up and hugging people on the other team that grew up playing together.
Right. Right.
We play Springfield on Friday, and it's always a big one. But I don't know if it falls into the same category as what Parkside probably used to be.
Yeah.
And
I
what
don't
you're
think
saying
so.
is that they were close geographically to us, so that really helped stir up the rivalry over time.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
There was a
they-
history too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was their roster. Well, this year there's a lot of internationals, but before there was a lot of Chicagoland players or Milwaukee players, and so again, just players from each university knew each other. And
Right.
we
Were you
just
going to say
enjoyed it.
something, Abby?
I was going to say, I think one of the great things about our conference is that it's just extremely competitive. You know, some sports, they might have a team where they know going into that game, okay, like we're going to win this.
Yeah.
The way that our conference is, which is similar to, I think, how it is for you guys too, is you go into every game, it could go either way. It's like a 50-50. Every single team, it's going to be a close game, 2-1, 1-0. There's really no blowouts in our conference.
Yeah.
And for me, how I kind of look at who I'm going into who would be like a rival is whoever's kind of like doing well that season. So like right now, I would say like Rockhurst is undefeated. So for me, like going into that game, I kind of will have a chip on my shoulder because you want to take them out and you don't want them to be undefeated anymore. So that's kind of how I go into looking at rivals.
Sure.
Do you have similar thoughts, Justin? Or
Yeah, I mean, every game is a competitive game. That's what I like so much about the conference is that every game there's always a challenge. There's always going to be a team running at you that's got a chance of upsetting you. And you see teams that are nationally ranked and then go and get upset. So, I mean, I think our rivals, Indianapolis is always a good game. Quincy is always a good game. I don't know why we're rivals, but everybody just hates each other. I don't know, but I think those two are two big ones.
In some ways, that's what's great about our conference is, you know, if you spend too much time thinking, hey, 3 weeks from now we're playing, you know, this team we got to get up for, like, it's the next game that's your rival. Like, that's the one that matters. And so whether it's 2 days ago, if you spend too much time thinking about what happened last weekend or what's going to happen 2 games from now, you're probably wasting some energy on what you should be focused on, which is what are you doing today and what's the next game.
Yeah. Okay. I think that covered that question pretty well. Okay, so there's a question about soccer. So how has it changed in terms of people knowing what it is? And you could talk about that from growing up as well as what you guys have seen over the years. Many more, I'm assuming, my observation is many more people understand it now than used to. Almost everyone plays it at some time in their life. So how has that changed the game at the NCAA level? Or has it? Evan, you go first.
Okay.
Sorry. I keep
How's it
forgetting to
changed over
ask.
the college level? Well, I think you look at it as more are playing. You know, over the decades, I think you have more participants playing each decade, and it's probably leveled off. So I think it's just there's more on television. The Premier League is more, the German League. I mean, there's more games that are out there. The U.S. has games, so the Mexican league, so there's just a lot more exposure to the sport. Where I would say, 10, 20, 30 years ago, a lot just didn't really know about the game. And those who played now are having kids, and those kids are playing. So I think you have parents that are more knowledgeable too
true.
during this time because they've played, or their high school had it, or they played club at rec level.
Yeah. Abby, what were you going to say? Sorry.
Coming from like a women's soccer perspective, I think that women's soccer has really, really grown. I was really fortunate to grow up in a time where the women's national team was thriving and is still
that's
thriving.
true, yeah.
So I feel like as a little girl, I always had their calendars. I was always watching their games. So I think women's soccer is a really big growing sport right now, as well as internationally. It used to kind of just be the women's soccer team was number one, but now other developing countries are also starting to have women's soccer team too, and it's becoming more competitive. So it's been really cool to kind of grow up in that and get to be part of a growing sport.
So I saw this weekend, I think it was the largest crowd ever for a women's Premier League game in England. It was 45 or 50,000 people to watch a game there, which is
Barcelona had like 70, 75,000.
So it's the one thing that I've also noticed from the time that I played club, you grew up playing, like the club level and the way it's structured, for better or worse, and I'm not always a huge fan of it, but it has changed quite a bit, and in some ways mirrors and kind of prepares players to, take that next step earlier, and we could talk for hours about this, getting specific about what kids are doing and just picking one sport really early, which is not probably what we did.
Right.
But it's happening and it's becoming more national, and these players are in high school are playing in league games in the East Coast and the West Coast, and so they're used to the travel and having to deal with the homework and pretty much the exact life that they're going to be leading when they get to college.
That's fascinating. The international character of soccer has come up a few times already. So I guess I want to ask a little bit about that. And I don't remember the nationality of your rosters. Usually there are international players. I presume that there are. I guess, how does that change? Does it change anything? Does it make it richer? Does it? I don't know. Do you want to address that, Justin? Let me be more specific. Having international players on the team as teammates is probably different than your high school experience.
Yeah, 100%.
So how is it different?
I mean, they all come from different backgrounds. I mean, we got guys from Netherlands, Sweden, Ukraine, everywhere. So they all bring something different. They all have a different culture. They all are used to different playing styles, and they all bring something different to the table that, I mean, teaches other guys from here that aren't used to that, and helps everybody kind of just get connected better, and just makes it better.
Learn about their cultures a little bit in just hanging out with them, and
you just see they think some things are correct this way, but here we don't do it that way, and they mean the right thing all the time, but sometimes it's just funny.
In terms of language.
Yeah.
And how many invitations have you got to go to someone's house at their home country?
I think 3 or 4.
I'm planting the seed there if it hasn't happened. It's wonderful to have someone to stay with in another country.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Have you had something similar with your teammates?
Yeah, well, currently we have a girl, we only have one international player right now. She's from Canada, and she's new this year. But I actually got the opportunity to visit one of my international friends from England. She graduated last year, one of my very best friends, and that was an awesome opportunity to get to go to her home country, have her show me around. So I honestly think that having international people brings a really fun and cool aspect, and you want to bring different styles of play because it's only going to make your team better, as not only on the field, but I think off the field it also makes you a better team.
Excellent. Okay, so maybe one more has come through that I'm going to ask. What's the difference between Division II and Division III? Chris. And then Evan.
We'll go into this is a conversation that comes up all the time when we give recruiting conversations to clubs, and talk to them about how to navigate the recruiting process. there's differences between Division I, II, and III, and I think one of the things that sometimes players or teams or high schools get caught up on is, hey, you have to go to a certain division. And I think one of the things that we try to do as coaches is try to help people figure out what is the right place for them. Because there are fantastic Division I institutions academically, soccer-wise. There's some pretty poor ones as well, and that can be said at each division. So, I think Division II, the niche or the idea is that there really is a balance between academics and athletics. You can put in the hours that these guys are putting in and still play at a really high level. I think when you get to Division III, some of the rules change, just in terms of the amount of hours. Usually the travel's a little bit more regional, and so probably don't spend as much time on the road as maybe we do. Scholarships is another big one. They have a different financial aid system set up in terms of, where they're trying to find academic money or grants and things like that, whereas we have athletic scholarships that we can offer. So that's a difference. And I think in the off season, that's probably the other big difference. I think ours is probably a little bit more structured. They have less time that they're able to spend with their teams in structured environments and less dates that they can do things. So a little bit less year round than probably we are. But again, from a playing standpoint, there's some fantastic D3 programs and academic institutions. So it's about finding the school that's going to be best for you.
Evan, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think he hit the three spots.
That's
time commitment in the spring, the scholarships, and just the level of play. There's strong. There's the top D3s could compete with D2. The top D2s could compete with Division I, but just throughout the entire division, it's just a lot more competitive.
So we're getting close to the end of our time, and I have just a couple more questions. So I think maybe for the two of you, I might ask, so we have a lot of different people watch the show. So members of our own community, your friends are watching, hopefully your families are watching, but also some prospective students might be watching, prospective student athletes. And I just wonder, thinking about listening to everybody talk about the complexities of getting to this point, like Justin, do you have any advice for people who are currently in high school and thinking about moving on, picking a university to go to, or picking a division? You don't really pick a division, but thinking through all this stuff.
Yeah, just find a place that you feel you fit best at. I mean, everyone puts a label on it, whether it's whatever division it is, but ultimately it's where you fit in the best. So I feel like you got to fall in love with the campus. You got to be involved in something outside of class, whether it's athletics or a club or something else. I just think that you have to love every aspect of it. Like if you're going to athletics, you got to love everything outside of athletics, because it could get taken away from you like that. So you got to be able to see yourself there for 4 or 5 years, however long you're going to be there.
Yeah, thank you. Abby?
I think that was a really good answer by Justin. Just finding that right fit is really what I looked for. And also I would say just keeping your options open. I feel like some people maybe narrow down I'm only going to look at Division I, or I'm only going to look at Division III, and kind of narrowing it down. But I feel like keep your options open and just be willing to give every university a chance, because it might surprise you and it might end up being your right fit.
So both of you are so wise about this stuff. Thank you so much. So now I'm going to go back to the present and ask, okay, so also, like I said, there are still people who maybe didn't grow up playing soccer or watching. What do you, if I'm watching and I think, I'm going to go check it out on Friday because these people are amazing, I'm going to go support them, Friday or Sunday, what do you look for? I'm going to ask Evan this question. Okay. What do you look for when you're watching? What should you be paying attention to at a soccer game? At any soccer game?
A non-soccer person, or?
Yeah, when I'm sitting there in the stands, what should I be paying attention to?
I think what's going to stand out the most is the intensity of the game. The game it's a contact sport. It's intense. So I think it'd be just, as you're sitting in the stands and watching, you just kind of look at both teams and what they're trying to do. I think that would be the most kind of interesting, fascinating. What's one team's white, one's red. What's the white team doing? How are they trying to? How are they working together? Yeah, and how they trying to accomplish their objectives, and are they successful with it? You know, and if there's any kind of changes, does either coach make any changes, and what's the other team trying to do? And you can usually, most of the time, you sit there and say, yeah, that team might be a little bit more talented, but this team's more effective. And the score sometimes, soccer is you can dominate, yes, and lose on one restart, 1-0. And so that's something as you watch, that's just the game, you know, so.
I feel like as I've watched it over many years, I feel like that's one bit of wisdom that I've learned, is that there's so much emotion in the opportunities to score because of what you just said. Because you could, if you squander those opportunities or if you don't take advantage of those opportunities, it could be, it's so frustrating to be the dominant team, you know. So and once I realized that, then I realized every time you're close, that's why everyone is like really into it, you know. Even though the percentages are still low, but it's still, every opportunity is so important. Does anybody want to add anything to that?
Abby and I are probably cringing because that was Sunday for us. I thought it was probably our best performance of the year.
Yeah.
And couldn't get on the end of a ball. And so a lot of work this week on final ball, but you know, that's the game. It's can be amazing and a ton of fun to watch, and I echo Evan, like you see the intensity, you know, the creativity that comes out. We don't call timeouts, we don't call plays, you know, they're figuring this stuff out as they problem solve throughout the game, and it's fun to watch. That's one of the things is we get to do it during the week, and then we get to kind of, you know, watch them perform. So we enjoy that.
Well said. I think we're going to close with that. So grateful to all four of you for taking your time during your busy season and during your busy academic time. I'm really grateful for your time and your incredible thoughtfulness and for the contributions that you're making to our community. So we're done for today. We will be off next week because of the midterm break. So have a wonderful weekend watching soccer and enjoying Family Day. And again, our thoughts and prayers are with everyone connected, with people connected to the Florida and the hurricane. And God bless you all, and best wishes for a fun and safe weekend.